So what'd you think of the Saints draft?
Look, I know we talked before going in, and we could have looked at how many picks they had and even gone in before and thought quality over quantity. And, of course, they certainly went that route even further by trading away 4 day 3 picks to go get Adam Troutman in the 3rd round. But I couldn't see logic, especially in the first 3 picks, just with Cesar Ruiz. I knew that interior offensive line could be a possibility. I know we've talked about how there was some dissatisfaction with Larry Warford.
Mm-hmm.
There's a possibility of them moving Eric McCoy to guard, and I think that is what's going to happen. Because if you even look back and see what Ruiz said at the Combine, he talked about comments where he said that he was born to play center, and then he played guard early on in his career and wasn't very good at it. So he went back to his natural position and was really good. And what I like about Ruiz is that he's been consistent. He was a top recruit coming out of high school, top college guy. So it seems like he's been consistent all the way through. Now, the Zach Bonfit might be one of those steals because people got maybe scared away by a diluted sample or an injury from 2 years ago or didn't really know how to use him. At least the Saints are going to try to put him in at middle linebacker or strong side linebacker. And I do caution this because the last time the Saints tried to do this with someone who was more of a pass rusher and try to put him in as a traditional 4-3 linebacker was Haley Kikaha, and they never really found a role with him. So, and I honestly, as I was just talking, I just thought of that. I didn't think about that until just now.
That's like a curse word, man. Now, Kikaha had injury issues, though. It's worth noting that. But for a second-round pick,
I didn't mean by the injuries. I meant by trying to shoehorn him in to a position where he didn't really play that in college. He was more of a let's go get the pass rusher. And look, I'm all about the Troutman pick. Top tight end on our board at the Athletic, number 56 overall. And the value, if you look at the trade charts that teams traditionally use, the Saints had better value trading the 4 picks to go get a guy they really wanted in Troutman. So I look at it that way and see that the Saints were aggressive with a guy they thought could be really good for their team.
What about Stevens?
That is a guy that I don't even know who's going to make the roster, but boy, there's going to be more intrigue about him than all these other picks. And it's just something that you've seen him play and not play very well at quarterback. And so he's someone who I don't think is going to come in and say, man, I'm going to be hell-bent to play quarterback a la the way Taysom Hill is. I think he knows what he has to be to make it in this league, and that is to be able to catch passes, block, special teams, all this other stuff. Forget about actually playing quarterback in the NFL.
It is comical to me how many people want to fight me on the idea that Tommy Stevens is going to make the 53. I would put that at 0.01%, just so as not to be at 0 of him making the 53.
I think they draft. Well, I know why they drafted him. I mean, Jeff Duncan wrote the quintessential piece on it, and one of it was to screw over Joe Brady and the Panthers, but also a player they feel like they could develop. And also you get through all of the training camps and who knows what kind of preseason they have, and he gets cut, and probably there's actually a decent chance he could just sneak through waivers because you have your roster set. Where do you shoehorn him in if you're another team? So, yeah, I'm with you. I would be surprised if he actually makes the team.
Bingo. He's a practice squad guy, and let's see what happens in the future. In the meantime, you get to flip the bird at Joe Brady. So if that's worth trading a couple of picks to be able to spite a former assistant, okay.
For Sean Payton,
yes,
that's the way he is. So he looks at it as a complete win.
It's amazing to me, Larry, how many people who follow this franchise and have watched Sean Payton operate for 14 years don't understand that. Like, it was a total spite play. That's what it was, man. It's like you had him, he agreed to go somewhere else, and now you're like, bleep you're coming here. That's totally Sean Payton. It's fine. He's been super successful, but how do people not see that's exactly what this was?
I also think it goes a little deeper because you know how many times Sean Payton's been asked about Joe Brady over the past, like, say, year,
Oh,
right?
yeah,
And
it's
so
true. Yeah.
it's never been, like, super warm whenever he's been asked about it. And I don't think people see that. And then when actually LSU starts taking off, Peyton admits, well, I told him he shouldn't have gone to LSU, and what do I know? And so now people are looking at him as, oh, he's this boy wonder using my offense. So there is going to be some sort of fight, or I'm going to be better than you. Peyton is going to use that against Joe Brady, I feel like, until the end of time.
Do you remember in '06 when the Saints played a Sunday night game at Dallas?
Absolutely.
And just annihilated Parcells' team. I feel
Mike
like
Carney was the star.
Yes.
He scored like 4 times.
Yeah, he had like 3 touchdowns in the game. Like, I feel like that's what this year is going to be with the Saints against Carolina. Sean Payton's going to make it his mission not just to beat them, but to embarrass them.
I think he can certainly go with that route also. Seeing, all right, Teddy Bridgewater's over there. No hard feelings with Teddy, but
Right.
definitely wanting – Dennis Allen's wanting to make Boy Wonder look a little feeble. And, they've brought some other pieces up to Carolina and from the Saints and tried to pluck some lower-level assistants that Joe Brady was friends with. And Peyton said, no, you're not going to do that. So, and there was that actually with Parcells and Peyton back then. Peyton tried to take some of those assistants away, and Parcells was okay with some, but he's like, you can't take my whole cupboard. So there was definitely that dynamic there as well.
Larry Holder's with us, theathletic.com/New Orleans. He's on Twitter at Larry Holder. Undrafted free agents. Which, like, we always do this, right? You get the list on the next day of the undrafted free agents. You're like, all right, who'd they get? You're like, oh, that's a good name. Like, what are a couple of those names where you went like, oh, that's interesting?
I think, and we've got to put an asterisk on this because we got to look at it as like 2011 when there was really no off season and undrafted rookies were really hard to make teams.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that year, one made it off of the training camp field, and it was Issa Abdul-Kadus. He was the only undrafted guy. It's so random that I remember who it is.
Wow.
So, yeah, and so you have to look at it in that sense, and that the Saints are a good roster, just like then. And it'll be tough. But I'm going to look at a position where they have a penchant of hanging on to undrafted rookies, and that's linebacker. So I'm going to point to Joe Bocci from Michigan State. A lot of people thought he might have been, say, a mid-rounder, this, that, and the other. But I think linebacker is still a position where they have question marks, and he's someone who could probably, say, play middle or strong side. And if you keep 6 linebackers, maybe he could be the 6th. So if there's one guy I would look at, just because it's a position, like I said, Jolon Dunbar comes to mind, Jonathan Casillas comes to mind. So undrafted rookies have been able to kind of land there, and I'm wondering if Bocci could be that next one with the Saints.
I'm surprised you didn't go with one of the receivers because I don't know what they have there after the first 2 guys.
Trust me, it's numbers 1A and 1B behind Bocci on my list with Marquez Callaway and Juwan Johnson. But I agree they have a ton of bodies. I don't think you know what you have there. And, look, we saw last offseason where Emmanuel Butler was supposed to be stud, and he played like it for about 2.5 weeks, slowed down with an injury, and then old Jordan Humphrey jumped him. So is there a route for these guys to make it? Yes, but you can't also discount, say, Butler making the team and, some of these other guys that are just kind of there right now emerging. So, but look, I definitely think both fit what the Saints can do. And so there is definitely, if you're going to ask me for others, those would have been the next 2 I would have named.
Yeah. Now, they added Margus Hunt on Friday. What else do they need to do in free agency or roster management between now and whatever transpires before the final 53-man roster is set?
Yeah, adding a veteran edge guy who can play kind of both inside and outside like Hunt makes sense. I just remember him when he was drafted. He was this Estonian guy. I just I just thought of him as like the strongman contest, working out with boulders and things. But he's been able to kind of live a life for a while in the NFL. But I would say, I already mentioned linebacker. That could be something where they add a couple of bodies once they actually get onto the field. I want to say corner, but I feel like they've got a lot of bodies there. But still, I think they're always going to be looking at maybe cornerback. And then running back, I still think is something where they could add a couple of guys, just because you usually have like 6 on the depth chart for at least a camp, and all they've really got right now is the 3 players from last year, Kamara. You've got Murray, and then you've got Washington, and then they added Tony Jones from Notre Dame. So I feel like running back could be a place where they add a couple of guys and try to say, all right, y'all fight it out for that number 3 spot.
He is Larry Holder on Twitter at Larry Holder, theathletic.com/New Orleans. Read his stuff there. And periodically he joins us, although no longer to the sultry sounds of Ace of Base. You doing okay in quarantine otherwise? Any good stories?
Oh, boy. I wish I had some really good stories. I've been like the calmest of the calm. I have friends who are losing their mind. And, of course, on like 53 text chains. And so, but I'm like the lamest because I'm home, kids are home, wife's home, so it's not like I'm getting out. So no, I played golf last week.
Good.
That was good.
Good.
Other than that, I'm like the lamest. I'm like boring Uncle Larry. That's the worst.
Download TikTok, go down that rabbit hole, and then we'll get some really good Uncle Larry stories. I promise.
Oh dear. I'll see if my wife gives me permission, because that's where I am.
Trust me. Download TikTok. She'll love it too, and we'll have some Uncle Larry stories, I promise.
Oh, my. It's going to push me to drink? Is it that nuts?
I don't know if it would push you to drink. It's just, I think it's tailor-made for you.
Interesting. Okay. I'll go do TikTok.
Go do TikTok. Trust me.
There we go.
You must do TikTok. Trust me. All right. We'll see you, man. Thanks for the time.